What if I told you that becoming rich isn't about luck, inheritance, or being in the right place at the right time? What if it has nothing to do with where you started, but everything to do with a decision you haven't made yet? You see, wealth isn't a mystery. It's not a secret reserved for the elite. It's a process, a mindset, and most of all, a decision. A decision to rise above excuses, to stop waiting for permission, and to take full ownership of your future. Most people drift through life reacting to circumstances, surviving instead of building. But a few, very few, wake up and make a powerful declaration. I will not live my life at the mercy of money. I will master it. That single decision becomes the starting point of a transformation that touches every part of their lives, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This isn't about hype, it's about truth. And the truth is this: you already have what it takes, but you have to decide. Decide to become rich. Not someday, now. Step one, wealth is a decision, not an accident. Most people grow up believing that becoming rich is something that just happens to a lucky few, that wealth is a result of circumstances, inheritance, or being in the right place at the right time. But this belief is one of the greatest illusions holding people back. The truth is, wealth almost always begins with a decision. It is a deliberate, intentional choice made by individuals who decide that they will no longer live in scarcity, that they will learn what they need to learn, do what they need to do, and persist for as long as it takes to create a financially abundant life. Becoming rich starts in the mind. Long before the money shows up, the mindset is already in place. The people who rise from nothing to great success don't wait for permission, and they don't wait for ideal conditions. They decide. That decision is a firm inner commitment, a refusal to settle for less. It's not a wish, not a vague hope, and not a passive desire. It is a clear, non-negotiable decision to do what it takes to achieve financial freedom. When you look closely at wealthy individuals, self-made millionaires, entrepreneurs, investors, you notice a pattern. At some point in their life, they drew a line in the sand. They said, I'm done with financial struggle. I'm going to learn how to build wealth. That moment of clarity shifts everything. Their thoughts begin to change. Their daily habits start to align with their goal. And their environment gradually evolves. They stop spending frivolously. They stop wasting time. They start reading, planning, and investing. They become intentional about every dollar, every hour, and every decision. This process is not mystical or reserved for a special class of people. It's available to anyone willing to make the decision. In fact, the people who come from difficult backgrounds, who've faced poverty, debt, or failure, often become the most financially successful because they make the decision with intensity. They have experienced the pain of not having money, and they channel that discomfort into a burning desire to create a better future. The decision to become rich forces you to become more disciplined, more focused, more courageous. It demands that you grow past your current identity, beliefs, and limitations. And this is why most people avoid making the decision. Because once you decide, you no longer have excuses. You can't blame your parents, the economy, or your education. You've taken full responsibility. That's a heavy weight for some, but it's also the key that unlocks everything. Step 2, clarity is power. Clarity is one of the most underestimated forces in personal and financial achievement. Most people drift through life with vague desires. They say they want to be successful or make more money or have a better life, but they can't define what any of that actually looks like. And that's exactly why they stay stuck. You cannot hit a target you haven't set. You cannot reach a destination you haven't defined. The mind works best when it has a clear objective, something it can lock onto and move toward with focus and energy. Without that clarity, the mind wanders, the actions scatter, and progress stalls. When it comes to building wealth, clarity isn't optional. It's foundational. You need to know exactly what you want. Not more money, but how much. not someday, but by when. Vague goals create vague results. But when you define your income target, your net worth goal, your desired savings rate, and your ideal lifestyle in specific terms, your brain begins to filter your reality through that vision. It starts noticing opportunities you would have otherwise missed. It becomes laser focused, cutting through distractions and doubt. Clarity also gives meaning to your effort. When you have a number in mind, say earning $200,000 0 cents per year, or building a $1 million 0 cents investment portfolio, every decision becomes more purposeful. You know why you're cutting back on unnecessary spending. You know why you're reading financial books instead of scrolling on your phone. You understand why. You're waking up early to work on your business, or putting money into investments instead of upgrading your car. With clarity, your actions align with your goals. Without it, you're likely to fall back into patterns of comfort and procrastination. Clarity forces you to confront reality. If you want to be financially free in 10 years, and you're currently spending everything you earn, you're going to have to make serious changes. Clarity doesn't allow you to hide. It brings everything into the light: your habits, your choices, your beliefs, your limitations. And while that can be uncomfortable, it's also empowering, because once you're honest about where you are and specific about where you want to go, you can build a roadmap to get there. You can calculate exactly how much you need to save, how much you need to earn, what kind of investments you should consider, and what skills you need to develop to increase your income. People often avoid clarity because it forces responsibility. It's easier to say, I want to be rich someday, than to sit down and define exactly what rich means to you and what sacrifices that will require. But that fog of vagueness keeps you in the same place year after year. Clarity cuts through the fog. It gives you power, because now your decisions are based on intention, not impulse. You stop living reactively and start living proactively. You stop wasting time chasing things that don't matter and begin to focus only on what moves you forward. Clarity also builds confidence. When you know where you're going and why, uncertainty loses its grip on you. You become anchored. Even when things go wrong, even when setbacks occur, and they will, you don't lose direction. You might slow down, but you don't stop. You adjust, recalculate, and keep moving forward. That sense of direction, that internal compass, comes from clarity. Step 3, develop wealthy habits. Wealth is not a stroke of luck or a sudden windfall. It's the result of consistent, disciplined behavior repeated over time. The people who build real, lasting wealth don't just earn more money. They live differently, they think differently, and most importantly, they act differently on a daily basis. Their routines, rituals, and responses to the world are shaped by one thing: wealthy habits. These habits are not glamorous. They're often invisible to others, but they are powerful, and they compound over time in ways that most people can't see until the results are undeniable. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They determine what you do without you having to think about it, and what you do consistently becomes your results. If you have poor financial habits, like spending without tracking, procrastinating on saving, or ignoring investments, you're not going to build wealth no matter how much you earn. On the other hand, if you've trained yourself to delay gratification, track your finances, seek knowledge, and make your money work for you, you're going to make progress, even if you start small, because wealthy habits create momentum. They make progress inevitable. Wealthy individuals rarely make impulsive purchases. They plan, they budget, they reflect before they spend. They don't confuse wants with needs, and they don't rely on material things to feel successful. That doesn't mean they live in deprivation. It means they prioritize long-term gain over short-term pleasure. They understand that money saved is money working for them. They know that compound interest is not just a financial principle. It's a lifestyle. Every small, smart financial move, repeated daily, grows into massive results over time. They also feed their minds. Reading is a habit among the rich, not for entertainment alone, but for growth. They read books on business, investing, personal development, psychology, leadership. They know that their income can only grow as fast as they do. They seek mentors, attend seminars, listen to podcasts. Information becomes an asset. And they treat it that way. While others scroll through social media aimlessly, they're building intellectual capital that translates into better decisions, better strategies, and better results. Wealthy people value time more than money. They are meticulous about how they use their hours. They plan their day, set priorities, and avoid time-wasting distractions. They understand that time is the only resource that can't be replaced, and so they invest it wisely. They delegate. They automate. They create systems that save time and increase efficiency. They don't let the day control them. They control the day. This level of intention separates those who drift from those who rise. Discipline is another core wealthy habit. They do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. They exercise self-control in business, in health, in conversations, and especially in finances. They don't chase every shiny object or jump into every trend. They think strategically. They pause before they decide. They measure risk and reward. They understand that emotional decisions are expensive, so they train themselves to be calm, rational, and deliberate in how they respond to challenges and opportunities. Most of all, wealthy people operate with a habit of persistence. They don't quit because something is hard or because progress is slow. They're committed for the long haul. They understand that the road to wealth is filled with obstacles, but they also know that consistency beats intensity. They're not trying to hit a home run in a single day. They're showing up every day and doing the work. And over time, the gap between them and everyone else widens until it becomes a chasm. That chasm was built on habits. Step 4, take 100% responsibility for your finances. Nothing changes until you take full, complete, and total responsibility for your financial life. As long as you're blaming anyone or anything outside of yourself, your upbringing, your job, the economy, your partner, the government, you are giving away your power. You're placing your future in the hands of circumstances. And that mindset is a guaranteed formula for staying stuck. The turning point for every self-made wealthy person is the moment they stop pointing fingers and start looking in the mirror. They decide, if it's going to happen, it's up to me. That mindset shift is what separates the financially successful from everyone else. Taking 100% responsibility means owning your results, good or bad. It means acknowledging that your current financial situation is the direct outcome of your past decisions, habits, beliefs, and behaviors. If you're in debt, it's not because life is unfair, it's because of choices. If your savings are low, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you feel stuck, it's not because of external forces beyond your control. It's because of decisions you made or failed to make. That kind of honesty is not always easy. It can be uncomfortable to accept that where you are is a reflection of how you've been thinking and acting. But that discomfort is also incredibly empowering, because if you created the problem, you can create the solution. When you stop making excuses and start taking responsibility, everything changes. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you or for circumstances to magically improve. You start learning. You start asking better questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what can I do to change this? You stop blaming your job and start developing new skills. You stop complaining about the cost of living and start learning how to invest. You stop hoping for a lucky break and start creating your own opportunities. You shift from being a passive observer of your life to being the active creator of it. This mindset also means you take ownership of your financial education. Nobody's coming to teach you unless you decide to teach yourself. Most schools don't teach you how money works. So if you want to understand investing, taxes, budgeting, and building wealth, you have to commit to learning it on your own. You read the books, take the courses, ask the questions, make the calls. You don't wait for permission. You don't wait until you feel ready. You start now because it's your future and no one else is going to build it for you. Responsibility also means being brutally honest about your spending. You track every dollar, not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. You look at your statements. You stop pretending that small daily habits don't matter. Are playing this game without ever having studied it. They're out on the field making moves, spending, earning, borrowing, and investing without really understanding what they're doing or why. And when they lose, or worse, when they never really get ahead, they assume the game is rigged or unfair. But it's not. The truth is, those who win the money game are the ones who took the time to learn how it's played. They studied the rules, they practiced the moves, and they stayed in the game long enough to win. Mastering the money game doesn't happen by accident. It's a deliberate strategic process, and it's available to anyone willing to study, apply, and commit. The first rule of mastering the money game is understanding how money actually works. That means learning more than just how to earn it. You have to know how to keep it, grow it, and protect it. You need to understand the basics of cash flow, saving, investing, compounding interest, taxes, inflation, debt, and assets. You need to know the difference between good debt and bad debt, between liabilities and income-producing assets, between working for money and having money work for you. These concepts aren't complicated, but they are often ignored, and what you ignore in money will eventually control you. Most people were never taught these things. They weren't discussed at the dinner table. They weren't taught in school. So unless you take the initiative to learn them yourself, you're playing with a blindfold on. And in any game, playing blind is a guaranteed way to lose. That's why the financially successful make it a point to educate themselves. They read books on personal finance and investing. They follow credible financial experts. They watch markets, study trends, and track their net worth. They treat money like a subject to master, not a mystery to fear. In mastering the money game, you also need to understand the role of psychology. Your beliefs about money, formed mostly in childhood, shape how you play the game. If you believe that money is scarce or evil or that you don't deserve to be rich, you will unconsciously sabotage your financial success. You'll undercharge for your services. You'll overspend to feel worthy. You'll avoid investing because of fear. To master money, you must reprogram your mindset to one of abundance, growth, and self-worth. You have to see money not as an emotional crutch, but as a tool, something neutral that reflects your decisions and multiplies. Behavior strategy is another pillar of mastery. Wealthy people don't just save, they invest. They understand the power of assets that appreciate over time. They diversify. They understand risk management. They know that inflation erodes the value of money sitting idle in a savings account. So they put their capital to work in ways that match their goals and risk tolerance. They don't chase hype. They don't try to time the market. They follow proven principles. Long-term thinking, consistency, compounding, and calculated growth. And most importantly, they take action. Knowledge without action is worthless in the money game. You can know all the rules, but if you never play, you never win. Mastering the money game also means building systems. Wealthy people automate savings, investments, and bill payments. They create financial routines that operate with or without motivation. They track their spending, monitor their credit, review their goals, and measure progress consistently. Systems remove willpower from the equation. They ensure that the right things happen automatically and that bad decisions are minimized. This is how financial stability is maintained even in unpredictable times. You also need to learn how to protect your money. It's not just about earning and growing, it's about shielding it from unnecessary loss. That means having the right insurances. It means using legal structures to minimize taxes. It means understanding estate planning and protecting your wealth for future generations. It means being smart about who you trust, reading the fine print, and never investing in something you don't fully understand. Mastery is not about being flashy. It's about being smart, steady, and strategic. Ultimately, those who master the money game know that it's not about chasing riches to impress others. It's about freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of choice, freedom from stress, and freedom to live on your own terms. When you master money, you gain the ability to focus on what matters most in life without being controlled by scarcity, debt, or fear. But that freedom has a cost: discipline, education, effort, and long-term thinking. You don't win the game by hoping. You win it by preparing, practicing, and playing with purpose. Step 6, surround yourself with the right influence. Your environment plays a far greater role in your financial success than most people realize. It shapes your beliefs, habits, standards, and expectations, often without you even being aware of it. The people you spend the most time with influence how you think, what you believe is possible, how you spend your money, and what you define as success. If you want to become wealthy, one of the most important steps you can take is to deliberately choose who you allow into your inner circle. Because if you're surrounded by people who think small, spend recklessly, make excuses, or criticize ambition, you'll eventually adopt those patterns, even if only subtly. But if you're around people who are focused, disciplined, growth-minded, and financially aware, their energy will elevate yours. Human beings are deeply social. We mirror what we see. We model the behavior of those around us, not just consciously, but subconsciously. If your friends treat money carelessly, you'll start to justify careless financial behavior. If your peers laugh at the idea of budgeting, investing, or personal growth, you'll feel a subtle pressure to hide your ambition just to fit in. But if your circle celebrates smart money choices, values learning, and talks about goals, business, and wealth creation as normal topics of conversation, you'll begin to absorb those mindsets and behaviors. You'll stretch yourself. You'll raise your standards. You'll normalize excellence. Being intentional about your influences doesn't mean you need to cut everyone off or judge others for where they are in life. It simply means being aware you can love people and still outgrow them. You stop lying to yourself about what you can afford and start living in alignment with your goals. You stop saying yes to everything and start saying yes only to what moves you forward. You no longer avoid the numbers. You face them. You take control of them. You use them to make smarter decisions. That's what responsibility looks like in practice. You also take responsibility for your earning potential. You recognize that your income is not fixed. It can be grown, and growing it is your responsibility. If your current job doesn't pay enough, you don't just complain. You build a plan to increase your value. You learn new skills. You start a side hustle. You research industries with higher earning potential. You study people who have done it and model their behavior. You don't wait for your boss to notice you. You make yourself impossible to ignore. You don't wish for raises. You create reasons for them. Taking full responsibility means you never again say, "That's just how it is." You understand that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your future. Even if you didn't cause your current problems, it's still your job to fix them. Even if life dealt you a tough hand, you take the cards you've been given and play them with strategy, intelligence, and persistence. Responsibility is not blame, it's ownership. It's not about guilt, it's about power. Step 5, master the money game. Money is a game, and like any game, it has rules, strategies, risks, and rewards. The problem is that most people find while seeking higher level influence. That might mean spending less time with people who drain your energy and more time listening to mentors, attending events, joining masterminds, or following people who are where you want to be. Influence today isn't limited to physical proximity. It can be found in books, podcasts, videos, and online communities. You can build a circle of influence virtually, even if your current real-world environment isn't supportive. It's also important to understand that wealth is not just about money. It's about mindset, discipline, and vision. When you surround yourself with people who have those traits, you start to develop them too. You pick up their habits. You adopt their language. You start asking better questions. You stop tolerating mediocrity. You begin to act as if success is normal, because to the people you now associate with, it is. This shift in your social environment can create more growth in a year than you might have experienced in an entire decade surrounded by the wrong crowd. The right influence doesn't just inspire you, it challenges you, it holds you accountable, it calls you out when you make excuses. It pushes you to keep learning, keep trying, and keep believing in bigger goals. It reminds you that your potential is greater than your past, and that success is not just for other people, it's for you if you're willing to commit. The energy of ambitious, forward-thinking people is contagious. Just being in their presence raises your awareness. It sparks ideas, motivates action, and often gives you the clarity and courage you need to take your next big step. Sometimes the most powerful shift in your financial journey comes not from a new strategy or tool, but from a new relationship. One conversation, one connection, one introduction can open doors you never imagined. That's the power of being in the right room, the right network, the right environment. But wealth is rarely built in isolation. It thrives in ecosystems of support, challenge, and shared vision. When you make the choice to surround yourself with the right influence, you're no longer swimming upstream. You're aligning yourself with a current that carries you forward. Deciding to become rich is not about chasing money for the sake of status or approval. It's about stepping into your full potential and taking control of your life with clarity, intention, and discipline. Wealth doesn't just happen. It's built deliberately and consistently by people who choose to take responsibility, master the rules, and align themselves with the right environments and influences. It starts with a decision, one that says, I am in charge of my future. From there, it becomes a journey shaped by clear goals, powerful habits, and unshakable personal standards. You don't wait for the right time or the perfect plan or a lucky break. You decide and then you act. You become the kind of person wealth is naturally attracted to, not through shortcuts, but through growth strategy and commitment. Because in the end, wealth is not just what you accumulate, it's who you become in the process.